back, Washed Up Walkons fans. Episode 124 of the podcast. Actually, an episode that we weren't sure was absolutely going to happen. It was up in the air. We didn't exactly know how the last podcast was going to be received. We didn't know what was going to happen within the football program. And as far as we all felt a few days ago, nobody really felt like getting on another podcast. We all felt pretty shitty about the whole situation. But like I said, you guys were great. The fans were great on social media. And I don't know, you guys like the content so much that we thought we would try and discuss what's next in the program and who we've been able to experience through our years and think might be a good fit. And so that's kind of what this podcast episode is going to be about, is just the future of strength conditioning at Iowa. And hopefully we have some ideas.
Chris Doyle is not the strength coach of the University of Iowa Hawkeyes. Drake, did you ever think that, I mean, honestly, I thought it might just happen till eternity. I don't know. Did you ever think you'd hear those words?
Definitely not in the context that they are. You know, I thought it would be like a retirement down the road type deal, a right off into the sunset thing. Because when I graduated in 2017, it was a right off into the sunset type of career.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Absolutely wild. We don't have Kevin for this episode. Kevin, run it back 1 second. Thank you so much, like Drake said, to your guys' response. I felt a little bit bad because we got so much good feedback and good response, and I cannot tell you how many direct messages, emails, Facebook messages, tweets that were adding me about this episode. And again, it's a mixed feeling thing, because I wish it was under better circumstances. I wish that, I mean, our podcast blew up. We have a lot of new ears that are probably listening to their second ever episode right now. And
which is cool and welcome. And thank you guys for coming in at a time where we actually have our feet underneath us. And if you guys are back since you listened before, thanks for giving us another shot, because it's just not the same podcast it used to be.
Yeah. So you're right, Drake. There probably is a few camps here. There's the camp that's kind of been with us the whole time. Of course, the OG Walkons. Thank y'all. The new people who have never, I love seeing people like, man, I just found this podcast, or, they're thanking a friend on Twitter for turning me onto the podcast. Like, this was great. I'm going to listen from now on. That's so amazing. And like Drake said, you guys are catching us at a good time. We have 123 episodes under our belt. We're a little bit better at this than we used to be. Still not great, but better. And then there's the other, this is the most interesting one. The people who listened, gave us a chance in the beginning, got bored. I see it all the time on when people send me the message boards links, like, yeah, I get tired of their bro shit. It's just them telling frat stories about drinking and playing video games in college. Like, okay, get it that you guys aren't looking for that kind of stuff. You are occasionally going to get some of those stories, but I think we're better than we used to be. The thoughts and ideas are more directed, and hopefully this podcast and the ones in the future kind of prove that. But I wish it was under better circumstances. I didn't want to gain 500 followers on Twitter because of racial problems at the University of Iowa. I didn't want the podcast to blow up because of racial issues at Iowa. But that's what's happened in the last week, and you can't change the past. So now we're here.
So to all the new podcast followers, make sure you go eat at Gray's Restaurant in Iowa City.
Yeah, the unofficial sponsor that we have no affiliation towards monetarily. Go eat at Gray's. We will literally back them till the moon. Gray's down.
Order their chicken lips. Order their steaks. Their desserts are out of control, and the ownership, absolute A+.
A++++. Yeah. And give us a rate and review if you can. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. And Patreon is also an option as well. Moving on. So Kevin's not here. He's back working his real job. Occasionally this will happen for the new people. Drake and I, we don't do anything, and this is what we do. So here we are. Doyle is gone. I'm sad. I am sad. And the one thing I didn't mention on the podcast that we did the other day, and it was kind of a thought I had when thinking about how all of this went down with just airing it out on Twitter, was the people that it directly affects that aren't Chris Doyle. KF, obviously, one of them. And we've had even more conversations after that podcast was recorded with other teammates, other people. And it overwhelmingly, the people, the conversation is KF is still the best human on earth. And he is a man of his word, and he is the good guy. And that's what comes through on every single one of these things. And I hurt for KF bad, because I know that this broke him apart. The other main person I hurt for here is Dylan Doyle. Kid's life got absolutely destroyed. Grew up in Iowa City, was around Iowa football players from the time he could walk, lifted in that weight room for years, and all he wanted to do was become an Iowa Hawkeye. And I feel like maybe if somehow this just happened in a different way, that he could have lived that dream out. And he will go do great things at another university. I hope he gets a chance somewhere close, or I don't know what's going to happen with the Doyle family, but I hope he gets a chance in the Big Ten or somewhere big, because I think he can be a great special teams guy, and who knows, maybe a great linebacker. But that hurts for him. And I talked to a couple of the guys on the team who were in the meeting when he said that he was transferring, and the night before he actually came over to their house and said that, gave them the news there, and he was just fucking distraught. So that sucks.
I just can't really imagine. It sucks that he has to pay. It's like a double down type of deal.
That sucks. That hurts. That hurts bad. Chris Doyle is, again, no longer the Iowa Hawkeyes strength and conditioning coach, and I want to open it up with this, Drake. We knew it was coming. We said it at the end of the podcast the other day. Doyle was not going to be able to lead this program anymore. Is there a chance that Doyle leads any program? And what are your thoughts on him going somewhere else in college? Would colleges even accept him? Does he move on to the NFL? Does an NFL organization toy with him? In my mind, a lot of things happen like this in the sports world, where something happens at one organization or one program, you get another chance, a clean slate. The immediate story I think of is like a Josh Gordon with the Patriots, or what was that guy on the Cowboys who just was beating women?
Yeah, Gregory.
Yeah, like you do something in one program and you're done, right? They have to let you go. They have to cut ties. It's a save face thing. But if you can go in and start clean slate and just start anew somewhere else, I have to imagine that Chris Doyle can follow that path. And it'll be interesting, man. I don't know if he wants to continue to coach. I know that guy, and it's hard to imagine that he's just going to sit on his ass. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's hard to think that he would want to sit on his ass, but it's also hard to see Coach Doyle putting anything into another program that he put into Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
Because in reality, man, as I'm not gonna sit here and say whether he can or can't. Like that, I don't feel like that's my place at all to say. Because I certainly know that from my perspective, from a strength conditioning coach, and even as a mentor, he helped me and everybody in this podcast a lot. So I know that there's a lot of people in the future that he could help. Unfortunately, there's a black spot on his record, and I don't know what happens moving forward. Like I said, I still can't believe that this is happening. Like, it still feels like a dream. I'm pretty sure that 2020 it like hasn't happened at all, and I got a fucking horrible concussion in 2019.
Could
And
have happened.
I'm just running through a whole bullshit like dream in my head, and I'm in a coma somewhere.
What if the
So
whole
like that's kind of what I'm hoping, is that somehow I wake up and all of this was just made up in my head.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a possibility that the entire world is in a simulation right now. With the amount of shit that has gone on, I mean, it's very possible. And whoever's running the simulation just said, "Let's make it fucking interesting, boys." Like, let's
And they
just
did.
they just hit the interesting button. So who knows Doyle's future? I imagine. I think maybe he tries to go to the NFL. I think he might, and I think there will be plenty of organizations who will be interested in that.
Listen, man, here's this. Doyle's control. Doyle, I think if you can name one of his character flaws, it was that he was just like a control freak.
Yeah, likes to have the power.
And he was a bit of an egomaniac at times. And those two things were maybe amplified a little bit because he was allowed to have control over his entire program. And us as players, we were just kids, man.
Yeah.
These guys in the NFL, they're super millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
They're super famous.
They're all going to be making way more.
Their strength and conditioning programs aren't the same in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's the same fit. Who knows, man?
Be interesting to see. I wish him the best. So that leaves a large void, right? And college strength conditioning staffs are not just one person. Nowadays, well, really, since we came into college, I think it used to be 3, but since we were in college, you're allowed 5 assistants. And so there was always Doyle and 5 other guys, and then usually 2 or 3 interns, 4 interns on top of that. So it's a squad. That
it's
leaves
been
us
a squad of absolute legends.
And we're going to go over a few that we think would be best for the position. There's a lot of options, a lot of names being thrown out there, and I tried to.
I have my president and vice president.
Yeah, I know. Before we get there, the program is now left in the hands of Raymond Braithwaite. I got a lot of questions about Ray Braithwaite. Who's Ray? Who is this guy? Is he good? What's he been doing for this whole
Listen, man, Ray, total legend of a human being.
Good guy.
He's been working in strength conditioning for as long as Doyle, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he worked under Doyle for however many years, and he went to a head job himself, boom, came back. And, I mean, he's a great dude. He helped me a lot for sure.
Yeah. Ray is I think Ray was a great – I think most of the Iowa staff Iowa players saw it this way. There was Doyle on his own tier. There was Ray, who was on his own tier. And then the other – it almost felt like –
And Ray worked as a great liaison to Doyle.
Yeah.
Like they all did.
They worked incredibly.
Even sometimes if I would go to Nick and I would be like, Nick, I would know that I would just like something I didn't want to take to Doyle, I would take to Nick, right?
Yep.
And he would be like, listen, man, that's over my pay grade, unfortunately, dog.
Yeah.
So then I would just be like, fuck, I'm going to go to Ray first then.
Yep. So there was almost this 3 tiers. You had Doyle, you had Ray. He was number 1 assistant, and his salary reflected that. He was number 2 in charge. He's been there for 15 years. Like you said, went and coached somewhere else, came back. He's been in strength conditioning. He knows his shit. He, in fact, a lot of the programming that we did was Ray's programming. Doyle got to the point where, and again, this comes back to him having control of the program, not just the strength conditioning. I think Ray was actually the one who was writing most of our workouts.
Listen, there was guys in that assistant coaching office or in those assistant coaching offices that were grinding on the studies,
Yep.
trying to figure out what the latest stuff. Because when that,
That's all they did.
When we got in that French contrast and those force plates and everything, like that was a totally different set of programming. Somebody had to figure that out.
Yeah. So Ray, vital part. He knows if I guess the question is this. Let's cut the bullshit. Is Ray the guy now? Ray's the guy in the interim. Is he the guy to promote? Is it as easy as, hey, move Ray up, move everybody up one spot, bring a guy in on the base level, make him the last assistant, bang, move on? Is it that easy? It could be that easy. Kevin's not here. Kevin said that, I don't want to misquote him. Let me bring up the text message. Kevin said, Ray more than capable. And I agree with that. I will say this. Ray is not the guy, at least in my 5 years. He every once in a while he would turn it on. But Ray is not the guy who is rah-rah, get in your face, fire you up, that kind of stuff. And again, the good kind of get in your face. Like, let's move past the Doyle. Let's separate it from Doyle, like the demeaning stuff that is being thrown around, all of the allegation, whatever. The good get in your face, the good kind of challenge you, the kind of things that you can say to a player that may be like, damn, he's coming after me, but this is, I know it's for good intent and I know it's trying to make me better. Like, Ray is not, he's not a yeller. He's not going to, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah, and my exact, so like Ray is my guy, man. Ray helped me so much when I was injured, everything, spent a lot of time getting my stuff changed with him and Nick. It's just the fact that from a personality standpoint, Ray is the perfect guy to have in your strength conditioning group. Mm-hmm. Just from a personality standpoint, I think you need somebody more, I don't know, more of a force.
What's the word? Charismatic. And that brings us to, so I think we're in agreement. I love Ray. Would love to see him stay as
100%.
as in his spot.
Hey, give my dog Ray a pay raise.
Yeah,
give my dog a pay raise.
Raise him up, because he's a great strength and conditioning coach, and he does motivate people in their own way. Here's the deal that leaves us with, keep him in the program, but who's the head guy then? Who do we bring in? And there's been a lot of speculation. People have heard us talk about several guys. There's been talk of Grant Steen, all right, former player, guy that Kirk Ferentz talked about a lot, respected, now a assistant strength conditioning coach with the Seattle Seahawks. Actually was in contact with him, may have him on the podcast as a guest eventually. Oh. He does not seem, in my eyes, to be the guy. Again, you go back to that NFL system. He's been in the NFL strength conditioning, and I want someone who's been in college, right? What are we looking for in this next guy? We need someone
the thing is, you got to have a guy that is willing to mold grinders. Like, you have to have a grinder that's going to grind on grinders.
Yep. And you need somebody, in my opinion, I would hate to see them go outside of the Hawkeye strength conditioning family. Bring someone in that's been there over the last 10, 15 years that knows the kind of program. It's developmental. You're working with a bunch of guys that just want to fucking grind and make something of themselves. All right, know what that kind of mentality is of this program, know the fabric, and then they can take that and run with it in their own specific way. So Grant Steen has been mentioned. Alex Kanellis has been mentioned. He's the strength coach and one of the football coaches at Iowa City Regina, I believe, and big into strength conditioning. I think he's a good fit. I mean, they both obviously know the idea of Iowa football. They both played, but I want them to. I want the next guy to have coached at a college level, right? With good experience. Another one that has been thrown around. There was a guy. Oh God, what was his name? There's a guy that was at Nebraska for a while, and I suck at research. Now he's somewhere else. He's been a head coach And I thought he was actually a good option. But what I was looking for, and we both agreed, there was 3 names that came to our mind. And it was for me, you, and Kevin, and a ton of the other people that we talked to. And we have no power, right? In the real world, we have no power, even though Coach Wallace calls like, you got some fucking power with that podcast now. But I would love to get this train started. We talked about it. We're going to start the petition. There are 3 dudes that need to be highly considered by the staff who have been there recently. They know the fabric, the idea, the mentality of the Iowa program within the last 5 years, 6 years, I think, for one of the guys. They've all been there within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And they are young. They will all get in your face if they need to. They're all incredibly good at letting you know that they care about you as people and that they're passionate and that they know their shit about strength conditioning. And there's no use in hiding the names.
We mentioned they're legends, man.
Legends. And we played for all 3 of them. We played with one of them. We have Joel Welsh, Nick DeMarco, and Mark Wiseman. All right.
And listen to me. We just named off 3 candidates that you can't miss with. Like if you bring those 3 guys in a lineup to an MLB baseball game, your team wins 120 games.
Yeah.
And then wins the pennant.
Yeah. And they all hit 70 home runs, like Mark McGwire. So who are these guys? So let's start with Joel Welsh, man. Joel, if I had to pick, first of all, and this isn't this.
You want to bring more culture to your
right.
team. You want to have a guy
right.
that says, listen, man, we have this mark on our program and we are making active changes to change it. Look, Joel would be the fucking perfect face.
He is the slam dunk hire, dude. You couldn't get any better. Because let's face it, let's just straight up say it. If you want to address the problem, like you want the most face value addressing of the problem, Joel Welsh is black. Hire a black strength conditioning coach. I mean, you can
and loved by everybody 1 through 120.
Dude, I to this day, there's no one that would get me more hype than Joel Welsh. No one on earth. If you're in a squat set, you could finish any squat set you were ever in. His voice and his charisma that I talked about earlier, his energy, he just goes and goes and goes. And he fucking loves every one of his players, and he lets you know it. And at times he can be your bro, but most of the time, he has a great.
You gotta respect it, man.
The respect is there of the coach-player relationship, and he is my number 1 pick. He's the oldest of the 3. I pulled up so Joel Welsh is currently the strength conditioning coach, head strength conditioning coach for Central Michigan. He's been there for, I think, 3 years.
3 years, I think.
So Welsh was a part of the strength conditioning team at Iowa from 2012 to 2016. So we had him 13, 14, 15, and some of 16 working directly with the football program under Chris Doyle. Before that, he worked as a grad assistant in Massachusetts at Fordham. Was the strength conditioning coach starting in 2008. And he knows his shit. He's the oldest one of the group. And just the best guy. And probably my number 1 pick, if I had to go with somebody right off the bat. Now,
that's my vice president, man.
It's 1A, it's 1A, 1B here, because let's talk about our guy.
This is my guy. This is my president now.
President, talk about him. Let me hear it.
My guy. So like, it's the progression of DeMarco, right? It's us being able to literally witness this guy go from us as a player.
Yep.
With a work ethic that far exceeded ours, because he was working out on his own at a level that was going to get him to the NFL, yep, as well as studying strength conditioning under Doyle in the program as an intern. Boom, goes to the NFL, does his thing for a year. Boom, retires. Then it's, okay, I want to be in strength conditioning. Comes back to our program after he's already been an intern because we already saw how much baller he was as an intern. And then he just goes on to probably ball out, be the MVP of Iowa strength conditioning from the time he was there on staff as like the 4 underneath Will and Ray to the time that he got moved to Elon. He was the most inventive, creative. He brought like more fun to strength conditioning than anybody else. He's on the cutting edge. Like he just gets it from a scientific perspective and he gets it from a player management perspective. And like, he's my guy.
Yeah, he is the dude, man. And here's the difference between Nick and Joel. Really the difference between Nick and most strength conditioning coaches. Nick is new age. He is the modern strength conditioning coach. He is going to bring the most science you could possibly bring. His progressive thinking as far as strength conditioning, I don't want to get into the details because it gets real boring and it's a lot of stuff that most of you guys wouldn't understand. But for example, this is just one of the examples. For example, if you ask most people, what's the number one lift you would do to get strong, right? Most people would say squat. At Elon University, the boys don't back squat ever. They don't back squat.
Unilateral strength.
So this is one of the topics in strength conditioning. They do a ton of put the bar on your back, get into a split lunge stance, and do lunge split squats. They do a ton of single leg work. He doesn't have a philosophy that's super all about Olympic lifting. He has all of the new age stuff that gets you the most bang for your buck with the most that creates the safest environment, the least amount of chance for injury, and
the most joint improvement.
Yeah, he is new age as they come. He's smart as hell. He's young. I mean, he's relatable. He's been there. He literally has tried all types of training. He was, like you said, he was in a football program where he was training for football performance. Went and played with the Ravens for a year. Decided he was going to go after strength conditioning. I'm pretty sure he's a fucking doctor by now.
Not quite yet. He has his master's for sure, but he's going after his doctorate.
Yeah. He's been working on his doctorate since like 2018.
And his master's project was insane.
He's got all the certifications you could possibly ever want. So the two guys we mentioned, you would not lose anything at all. You would lose nothing. And DeMarco has told me that he would be happy to retire at Elon, but he would come back, I think. And
it's the dream situation for him, man.
It's incredible. Nick DeMarco, Elon University, look him up. He is just the slam dunk hire. He might be my number 1A. He might be 1A, Joel 1B. I don't know.
That's president and vice president. But I mean, this is like, we're only picking who we would pick. Like, it's not like the other two guys also have to come to the program, though it would be a dream. Right. But I mean, Ray, obviously, pay my guy. And
that brings us to number 3. I think Wiseman for Heisman, number 3 on both of our lists for a good reason. Mark has been director of Southeast Missouri for about a year now, maybe a little over, as the head strength and conditioning coach. Before that, he has had just the most extremely accelerated process to Division I strength and conditioning coaching to a head job that anyone could ever have. And obviously that's because Mark is a godly human. He is damn near perfect.
God tier work ethic, dude.
No,
unmatchable.
No one works harder. No one has better work ethic. Just it was evident when he was a player, evident now as a strength coach. So basically his evolution was he graduated in 2014, did the whole thing with the NFL. I think he was in camp with the Bengals like during 2015. his NFL career gets cut short. He's like, cool, I'm going to go be a striker rep. He was Kevin Ward before Kevin Ward, right? He gets into that world and does it from like the fall of 2015 to like the summer or fall of 2016. He says, fuck it, I'm done. This is trash. I can't be Kevin Ward. I don't want to flirt with nurses and suck off doctors to sell product. I want to be in the world of football. Which Kevin does a great job of that, by the way. There's nothing wrong.
He's a great sucker, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what he gets paid for.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in his contract. But Mark decides, I'm going to go back into strength conditioning. So what does he do? He interns with Iowa football in 2016 or 17. Yeah. So after the intern, he basically like falls into perfect position. I believe he might have taken over for Joel. Joel left and Mark came in and filled the spot. Because at the time it was Cody, it was Ray, it was DeMarco, it was Lima, and it was Mark. Those were the five, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And so Mark just gets this, like, because he's so great, he works so hard, he fills the position, he's an assistant coach. To become an assistant at a Division I program, especially a program like Iowa, takes a long time. And he's like within a year, he's an assistant. Well, what do you know? He works his way up. A couple more people leave. He's like now second or third from the bottom. And within 2 years, he's leading his own program by himself. He's the youngest. He's but 3 years older than we are, which isn't to say like that 28 is because DeMarco's like 29 or 30, I think. It's not about age. Again, Mark, I still think Nick and Joel are a little bit further along, but again, you hire Mark Wiseman to run the Hawkeye program and it's a slam dunk. Any of those three, I would be so happy with. And Kevin said the exact same thing. Joel, Nick, or Weissman, and then he said Ray would be more than capable as well. So that's kind of the rundown of them. The only question I have, it's not a question, it's something I wanted to bring up, is, you know, aside from what I wanted to bring up, also, there's plenty of guys you could hire that would do just fine. I think that the way Kirk does it and the way he should do it is that he needs to get someone that knows the program and knows the heartbeat of the program that's been the last 10 years. And all three of those guys match. And I imagine this happens quickly. I hope that all three of them at least put their name in the pot, you know, and interview.
And I hope they all go in the same day and they're just like, hey man, let's see who wins this thing.
We're here to fuck shit up. Like,
and guess what? We might all come back if you pay us all. Listen, Doyle made a lot. We're not looking for it all. But I mean, you could spread some of that love around a couple extra ways, and we'll all come back.
I am pretty against and have been pretty against being an assistant or trying to pursue a head strength conditioning job in college. The one thing that would get me back in Iowa City is if Mark or Nick or Joel takes over and then an assistant coaching spot opens up. I might fucking apply. Apply.
Listen to me, dude. Me and DeMarco had a conversation a while ago. He said, dude, listen, if you ever want a job in strength conditioning, call me. Yeah. If Nick DeMarco wins the job, dude, I might die. Nick.
They had a spot at Elon open up, an assistant spot at Elon, and he texted me and was like, dude, I know that this is a long shot and I don't expect anything. Just had an assistant spot open up at Elon. If you're willing to relocate, the job is yours. And I was like, I'm not willing to relocate, but if you relocate
move back to Iowa City,
dude, if that, bro, I'd go back to school. I don't care. I'll get my master's. I don't give a fuck. Man, this brings me to my point. We're going to wrap this up. It's 35 minutes. It's not going to be an hour-long podcast, and there's probably already been a lot of bullshit in this one that hopefully you stuck around and listened. Hopefully the idea that you get from this is that these three guys are guys that the program, the guys inside the Iowa football team right now will be so excited to play for.
Wiseman is most of these guys' idols. Like I
100%.
got Wiseman when I was in high school and got to watch what this dude did. I was like, he's kind of like my hero.
He's my hero. And now they may get the chance to play for a guy like that. And Nick and Joel would be the same thing. These guys would bust ass. They would give everything they possibly have to work for these guys. And this brings me to my final topic of the podcast, and I think a good one to discuss. I personally, again, a little bit hurt because of this whole Doyle situation, a little bit confused, a little bit of a lot of things. I have come to the self-conclusion. This is not speaking for Drake or Kevin. Tyler Kluver believes that something like this with Chris Doyle was probably inevitable. I think Chris Doyle was an old school guy, and I think that a combination of strength conditioning, get just every single, almost on a quicker than a year basis. It was like every 6 months there's something new. It's so progressive. There's guys like Nick out there all over the place. They're using all this different new age stuff. And Doyle, as much cutting edge as he was, still liked to hold on to the staples of his old school stuff. And just generally his coaching style is what you would call old school, 1980s, 1990s, in your face, motivate you, kick your ass, all this shit. Is there a chance that the generation of kids that are now in Iowa football, the kids that are coming into this program, were born after Doyle started as the head coach? They're born in the 2000s. Is there a chance that the way – I'm going to say it. Kids these days are softer on average than kids.
No cap. That's no cap.
Kids these days are softer. Now, you're always going to find the exceptions to the rule. There's kids that are much tougher than me in the program currently. But on average, kids in the 1990s were probably a little bit tougher than the kids in the 2000s.
When they talked about the camps that they used to go through when KF first got there in the early 2000s, I wouldn't have made it through camp in the early 2000s.
Dude, in the fucking 80s, like 70s and 80s, they were doing 3-a-days.
See.
And I know the game evolves. There's a bunch of different dynamic variables to this. But, every 10 years, we get a little bit softer because social media, everyone, like, it's true. You can't deny that. Of course, you're always going to have those hard-nosed kids. And I hope that we have all those hard-nosed kids in the Iowa program right now. But as a whole, was Doyle just not going to be the right guy eventually for this kind of generation? Did time move on from Doyle? I think potentially. And I think that's why this situation happened a little bit. And
it's funny because had you asked me that, like,
ask me 3 weeks ago, and I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd be like, no, he's a great coach. I mean, sure, some of his methods, but he's a great coach.
And this is all coming from the self-introspection and questioning. I truly believe, I think now that if you get a guy like Joel Welsh, if you get a guy like Mark Wiseman, a guy like Nick DeMarco to lead that program, they will be able to get more. This is my personal belief. They can get more out of this generation of kids than Coach Doyle could get out of this generation of kids.
We need to get Jocko and The Rock running for president.
Yep.
And we need to get DeMarco and Joel running for Iowa strength conditioning. That's the America I want to live in.
Yep.
And I know Pat Anger is hurt right now. Shout out to my brother Pat. Love you, bro. I know you're hurt, but that's a good America right there.
It's a good America. And you heard it here. You heard it here from two white guys who are washed up and we do know a little bit about strength conditioning, but we don't have a lot of power. I just hope, and I have to imagine, that the strength staff and KF and whoever sits on that board of interviewees, they had to have those same names run through their head. And I hope they did. I hope it ends with one of them. If it doesn't, either way, we're going to have stuff to talk about on the podcast. Hopefully this excites you guys a little bit, especially if one of these guys gets named the head strength conditioning coach. And that's episode 124. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. I know Hawkeye Nation we're rebuilding a little bit, and that's just the way it is. Drake, anything else?
No, man. You just got to tough this shit out, man.
Tough it out, baby. Episode 124, Washed Up Walk-Ons. We will, again, we're still not on a normal schedule here. This is kind of a Chris Doyle he resigns. Chris Doyle's out, who's in kind of thing. Still planning on getting some of our teammates who spoke out on this topic to come on the podcast. We hope to bring you that in the coming weeks. We do not have a planned episode schedule right now. They will come out whenever we get them done. Thank you for listening. Again, thank you to all the new people and new ears that we have on this podcast. We will see you guys next time. Have a good one.